Hello everybody, my name is Dave Parry from Wellmeadow and you're listening to the SME Growth Podcast. Most businesses want to grow and we'll be sharing lots of different ideas on how to get more leads and convert them to customers. In today's episode, the Wellmeadow team will be talking about a case study of a Christmas video that we did for our client last year. If you want to have a look at the video or see some of the other material, then go to our website at wellmeadow.co.uk or have a look in the show notes below. Thanks.
Welcome to the Wellmeadow podcast. Glad you could be here. My name is Richard Buckle. I'm a director at Wellmeadow, and I'm joined today by Sam and Verity, digital marketing executives at Wellmeadow, and we're going to explore a couple of different ways you can create content using video.
Hey.
Hi.
So, what are we going to talk about? First Wellmeadow podcast. Are we going to talk about content? Creating content?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought we were going to.
That's what we're going to talk about. There we go then. Great start. So obviously there's lots of different types of content that you can create. So I think it might be interesting to look at what we did with some video stuff, talk about what we did with a client of ours, Granger Worrall, when we did something a bit more interesting at Christmas.
Yeah.
And then just maybe talk it through about our process that we went through, and anyone else feel free to chip in and talk. Otherwise,
I'll just 40 minutes.
Otherwise, it's going to be 40 minutes of me talking. And this podcast will only ever do one episode. It will never work.
Yeah, let's hope it does more than one episode.
So I don't know. Let me just I can fire it up on here just in case we want to do the video stuff as well. Then people can have a look at what we're talking about.
Yeah, so this is on our website. So if people want to have a look at it, they can just go to our website and go to that work page.
Absolutely. And I guess there's loads of other different types of content that we could talk about. There's loads of examples of that on the website. But this one in particular that we're going to look at, just partly because it is a little bit random. It's a little bit kind of non-linear, I suppose, would be one way of describing it. So if I just give a little bit of background, you guys feel free to chip in and ask questions, because you probably weren't. Well, you were involved.
I was involved in it.
I was
very heavily involved in it.
There you go. It's so long ago, the mist of time that I've forgotten. So we were basically asked by Granger Worrall to come up with something for Christmas. They historically sent out kind of
it's a bit of a boring, Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, yeah.
From Granger Worrall, very cheese, very normal.
Wish you all the best type of thing.
The standard Christmas.
Yeah, standard Christmas email that goes out wishing you and yours the best and all that. So we thought, well, maybe we could do a bit better, try something a little bit more creative. So I was sort of sitting at home thinking about it, and I thought, what if we wrote a poem or did something? I'm not a huge poet, but I have been known to pen the odd verse.
Next Shakespeare coming here.
Exactly, Shakespeare, Byron or Shelley, they move over. So I started thinking the Twas the Night Before Christmas style. We'd just written another piece of content for Granger Worrall, an ebook around the sandcasting process. So Granger Worrall are experts in sandcasting and complex metal shapes, creating complex metal shapes.
There you go, straight from the marketer's mouth.
Yeah, can't help it. There you go. Go to their website.
On sandcasting.
So we had all this material around their process and the sandcasting process and how it all fit together. So I thought, well, why don't we come up with something? It was sort of post-COVID, which all seems a little bit in the midst of time a little bit now. But I thought, well, what if we came up with a narrative that said that Santa wanted to deliver more presents to all the kids after COVID, but that made his sleigh too heavy, and as a result he then had to get it lightweighted and also put some EV stuff in to help the reindeers and all that.
Yeah. So
who does he go to but the sandcasting experts, lightweighting experts, Granger Worrall, and then we use that to kind of create the whole process. So we ended up writing this
So before we go deeper into it, you've seen this video?
I have seen it.
Yes.
Yes.
What was your first reaction of seeing this masterpiece? Don't let us being here influence your opinion of it.
No, it's fair. I thought it was really cool. I was like, this is something very different, stands out against what you kind of expect at Christmas. I feel we've seen everyone's had we're being edgy, we've got a reindeer flying across the email, kind of trying to stand out at Christmas. And this was going above and beyond. It was really just something so different and something that really celebrated the business as well as delivering the message.
Yeah, I think that was one of the main things is we wanted to try and incorporate
Yeah.
a lot of the business in it.
Yeah.
So that they felt involved.
Yeah, what we didn't want was just to kind of like, hey, it's Christmas, here's Santa. It's like, actually, no, this is a kind of unique, like it's about kind of bringing the storytelling element into it as well and trying to bring that in as a kind of, that's a huge area now in the whole kind of marketing sphere of how do we tell stories and connecting to maybe a little bit more of a kind of human side of who we are and all of that.
Yes.
So there was an element of that. And I think, to be fair, like it's worth saying that this was like a huge risk on their part. Like I remember sort of pitching it at first and saying, well, okay, we've got this kind of poem idea. And they were like, what are you talking about? And so I sent them the poem and I was pretty confident that it was good. But they were like, oh, actually, we get this. Like, and then, so they were like, yeah, okay, great. The poem's great. Ticks all the boxes, all the processes in there. It's got a good, sort of narrative, good story arc in it. So, but then I was like, right, we've got 2 weeks before Christmas. Like, we could probably like film this. Yeah. So,
what a reasonably well planned timeline.
When I was just like looking at Sam, going like you could film this. like that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like actually, like realistically, like as good as the poem was, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or whatever.
Sure.
As good as it was, I was like, actually, who's going to engage with like a poem? Like, it's kind of not.
Yeah, a poem on its own it's like another form of written content, and we wanted to try and get away from that and be a bit more engaging.
So it's like, okay, so how are we going to kind of capture attention here and engage people and get them into it? So really, like video is where to go. So we were like, okay, well, we could kind of like act out the video, like it's kind of the poem, because it was sort of like lent itself to it. So then it got like, it's probably we were talking about like the kind of, there was a little bit of tension at that point, wasn't there?
Oh, because we had so little time to do it, and it was like you're trying to get in like a mental track of like just trying to nail things down and get things done. And because of the way that we work here, it was like dipping in and out. Each people were dipping in and out, so people were having different thoughts. And it just all sort of crossed over.
Well, I suppose it's like as well, like I had, because I'd written the poem, I had like in my head this kind of, there was a whole section in it about the elves telling Santa about like, the whole irony of this is that like I told my kids when they were like 2 or 3 that certain person doesn't exist.
What? Quiet.
So anyone under 10, sorry, I've just ruined your Christmas.
10-year-olds are key demographic.
They kind of figured it out anyway. So, but yeah, so this whole like idea anyway was slightly random. But I'd written this whole, like, there's a whole section in it about the elves, like, telling Santa to go to GW and all of this. But
I remember.
And then there were, like, some other, like, kind of bits in there which were quite clever. But when it came down to, like, okay, right, we've got to storyboard this now, that we've got permission to make a video out of this, kind of like, the guys at GW were like, okay, if you think you can do it, we'll trust you on it. So it was kind of like a bit of pressure there just to say, well, okay, we've kind of put it out there. But when it came to storyboarding it, it was like, well, okay, where are we going to get elves from? Like,
That's probably
because like, you got to remember, we did have 2 weeks. So it's like we've got to try and fit all of this within 2 weeks.
Like, because
it
was 2 weeks before Christmas, but we're like, we need to get it out probably 5 or 6 days before Christmas, because otherwise everyone's just going to be on holiday, so there's no point. Like, they're not going to be looking at LinkedIn or whatever. So it was like, right, okay. And then so I remember coming in, and you and Hannah had been working on it, and like they like butchered, not butchered, but they were like slicing this like masterpiece of a poem.
We were cutting bits out because we were like, we've not got time for this. And I can understand, like, Rich came in being like, what are you doing?
I was just like, what? This is integral to the story. Like, how else is Santa going to know where to go? Like, the elves have like, I don't know how the elves knew. Like,
great marketing messages. Like, that's what it was.
It started just getting really complex, but it's like, so there was that kind of element of like, right, okay, like, you've almost got to be, okay, for the greater good, like, you've almost got to, this is, okay, it's sort of your baby in a way, but you've got to let other people try and raise it a little bit. I don't want to push that metaphor too far, but like, a bit random, but yeah, in the end, it was like, right, okay, we've got to work out practically what can we actually do, in terms of like filming this in terms of locations that we've got. We can't really go and, you know, recreate a grotto somewhere, or we just kind of, you know, there were loads of ideas that we had, but it was just like, right, we've got to be practical about this. So in the end, we ended up, and I think probably for the best, getting the poem down to something that hit all the main points, but without too much kind of elaboration around it. And I think as a compromise, that was for the video version. And what we then did was we actually made a downloadable poem that had the full version in it, so people could read it. And in fairness, I think that really didn't get a lot of traction, the downloadable poem bit, versus the video, which got huge amounts of traction.
Yes.
Which I think then justified the decision to say, we need to make video content here, because that's actually going to be something.
Yeah, and this was our first real explore into this pillar content video wise. So it's not like it's some sort of masterpiece that we're like, oh, this is how amazing we can create. It was something that we threw together in less than 2 weeks and got out there. But it's
Well, the whole thing was the whole like the timeline. The time available was 2 weeks. The actual time to kind of pull it together was, well, okay, we've got a poem. Storyboard it the next day, get permission the next day, turn up and film it. And I think, so we turn up to film it on the day and we still haven't got a narrator, and none of us were going to we tried to kind of do our own narration.
None of us had a voice for narration.
This is going to be really ropey. And it was like a week before Christmas, and it's like, okay, who's going to narrate it? So we found a local person who could narrate it. She did a really good job. But I was literally in the car park at Granger Worrall ringing around people saying, right, we're filming. She's like, when do you need it? I was like, well, we're filming it today, and we could do the narration by this afternoon, if possible. I can send you the script. And but she was really good, and so she sorted that out for us. And I think that actually gave it an element of professionalism that it wouldn't have had otherwise.
No,
if you've just got someone talking over it, you know. I can't even remember how it starts now, but you know, 'twas the night before Christmas. It's like no one's getting that Christmas vibe if you haven't got someone who's got that kind of really jolly, upbeat kind of narrating style, as it were.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. I think what was quite funny, I mean, I wasn't there on the day, but I remember you coming back and being like, no one knew we were coming. And then you're just walking around in a Santa costume.
Yeah, well, so the original idea was that one of the directors of GW, who will remain nameless, was going to dress up in the Santa costume. So we said to him that we're going to do this. The guys at GW ordered this Santa costume, Amazon or whatever, turns up. So it's sitting there on the table. So we're sitting there. We've got the guys who are doing the filming. I'm there. Hannah's there. We're kind of, right, okay. So it's getting to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Gets to about 11 o'clock and still no one's turning up. You know, the chap who's going to play Santa is obviously now busy in a meeting somewhere. Conveniently, kind of, I've got something more important to do. So I was like, well, look, we've got to get on with this. So I'll just take one for the team. I just about managed to fit into the Santa costume. So I got into this costume.
I think, can you see it? Have you got a photo, better photo on the page? Are you in the...
I don't know. You can kind of see here.
That's Sam, isn't it?
That's Sam filming. And so I kind of got myself into this Santa costume.
In your safety boots as well.
In the safety boots and with the kind of the bag of presents or whatever. So, and it was okay, we've just got to get on with it. And that's, I guess in a way, that's sort of it's a little bit the sort of Wellmeadow ethos there of right, we just got to get stuff done. And we can't wait around all day to do this. We've got a limited amount of time that we've got the camera people. We've got to get this back and edited tomorrow. We can't come back and do it because we're going to miss the window for Christmas. So, okay, let's just crack on and do it. And I gotta say, it was quite good fun actually. But like you say, nobody knew we were coming.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of wandering around this foundry, all these blokes bashing metal and pouring aluminium and iron and all this stuff. And I'm like wandering around in this Santa costume, like looking at castings, looking at this like all these mold packs and stuff, like nodding my head, going, yes, that will do for my sleigh.
That's quite a bizarre day for the people there. Really,
and they must have been thinking, like, what on earth is going on?
I mean, GW deal with quite a lot of things that are commercially sensitive as well, and you can't exactly walk around in your Santa costume with your lanyard out.
Yeah,
with this big GW thing. So it was, I guess they'd be a bit on edge.
And I think, it's just so random. And again, like, you know, hats off to them. Like the trust level there was there, and you know, we've had a long-standing relationship with them. So it was like okay, this is a little bit risky, right? But I think as well, what it did was it kind of the anticipation internally was kind of a little bit like, what is this? Like, what are they doing? Like, kind of why is Santa here and all this type of thing. So it kind of, I don't know, like I could play. If you go to the website, like the whole video is on the website, but it's
it was quite a good first step into doing video content, wasn't it? And that's like you say, that's the sort of area that we're now expanding on further. So obviously that's part of the reason why we were so glad that you joined the team as well, because video content wise, you need to get a lot out there, and just you need this volume and resource available to be able to get it out there so fast.
I mean, the stats right now is like 85% of people will buy when there's video content. Without it, they're not as interested. So it is such a key thing, and obviously, but video is time consuming, so you need more people to be able to just get it through it, get it out, and get it done.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's one thing about video content that people don't realize generally is that work that goes behind it, because they'll see people turn up on a day, do a video, and assume that that's it. And it's like, well, actually, no. There's 2 to 3 days before that where you're preparing all of this stuff, making sure it's going to work right, and then 2 to 3 days, possibly more afterwards, where you're editing it all.
And there's like different styles of video content as well. So something like this needs a lot more kind of storyboarding and a lot more thinking through as to how it's going to work, and shot list of, you know, we've got to make sure we get everything more kind of like the other day we were doing some interviews, and that's a very different type of style, different kind of challenge there, because you've got people then that are getting thrust in front of a camera that don't want to be there. Yeah. So you've got to kind of, you know.
And the prep for that was literally like, we wrote a few questions. They got told internally that we were going to be there and that they were going to get interviewed. Yeah. Even though they were still surprised that they were getting interviewed. And then you turn up and you ask the questions, and then all of the efforts really in post-production there.
Yeah. So like, I don't know, I mean, I could play like a little clip of this or something, and just so people could see. I won't do the whole thing because it's obviously boring, but it's nice just to get like this little kind of like animation at the start, a little bit of like get the festive feel going. And again, it's back to that kind of like, we want to grab people's attention. Like you're saying, like 85% of, you know, products need video, or I can't remember what the stat was now that you just said. What was it again?
Is it 85% that's what they look for when they're trying to pick a product to consume.
So they're 85% people are more likely to buy if they see a video.
They see a video.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And I think that's just partly because culturally we're being conditioned to see video everywhere, aren't we?
Yeah,
like everything, like so much content we consume is video. Like use YouTube to search stuff if you're looking for something, or, you know, TikTok or
exactly. Well, everyone's probably watched an unboxing video of something that they wanted to buy.
So it's like, you know, we're sitting here thinking, right, we've got to grab people's attention with this. So, you know, we started off with it, and we had to use a little bit of stock, but I don't know, where's a good little bit of, like, just sitting around. This is always a little bit, just.
Notice all of the cheesy transitions.
Yeah, so like this is like an interesting bit here, right? So we had this great bit of footage. We had this great bit of footage, right? That me and Tom sitting there going through like the sleigh design and all of this. And then
we sent them a rough cut. And they came back and were like, you can't actually show that design. It's commercially sensitive.
Some next generation product. It was like it was displayed on the screen, like really kind of. Oh yeah,
you could have seen it in detail, real detail.
And we were like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, so we could have like just like 12 seconds. Like we tried to cut it out first, didn't we? And
we tried to cut it out, and it didn't work.
That didn't work.
And then it was like, right, okay, so now I've got it on. I was on quite an underpowered computer as well. I had to go in and like manually track this blur mask over the top, frame by frame. It was the most painful thing on the planet.
So we ended up like having to sort of compromise on what we would have wanted there, which I suppose is a lesson in a way. I think we did check at the time but we were on such a schedule to try and get this done that it was like, you know, are we okay to film this? Yes. And it was up on the screen, but then it was like, okay, actually on reflection, no, we don't want it. So you've got like good little beard stroke there. And
this flow simulation actually took a couple of days to get back afterwards, because we realized that we couldn't use the other shot. So we were like, right, but we need something to show this flow simulation software that they use for their castings. So you can see that's on a really old monitor that they recorded that on. Hence why the aspect ratio of that is nowhere near the raw footage.
So it was a little bit of it was a little bit painful with the kind of thinking, oh, this is not what we wanted. We had this great kind of like over the shoulder shot. It was perfect, but so we had to kind of compromise. But you know, that's life, isn't it? Oh, that's the old COVID. Because we were still like everyone's masked up then, isn't it? It's kind of weird now, but it's like, you know, everyone's doing the old COVID handshake with the elbows or whatever. So oh, there we go, another classic.
Another one.
Look at that. So nice little bit of stock.
Good little wipe transition there. That
Look
was
at that.
crisp.
So, but next, I think if we did it again, we get a better beard. So like a brutal sort of ginger beard into Santa's white beard. So.
I think that adds to it. I think that's all part of
the charm.
Cheese charm, yeah.
We're not taking it too seriously.
Oh yeah, knocking on the metal, because that helps you understand. Yeah, so we were actually really lucky that GW had quite a lot of footage from inside of their foundry anyway that we were able to use. So there was like the shot of the 3D sand printer was something that they had separately that we could just use and import, and same with that robot arm pouring the metal there. So we were sort of able to sort of cherry pick this footage from loads of different places because the schedule was so limited that we weren't able to get this kind of B-roll stuff that you needed.
But greatly, the client was so excited to get involved and like, oh, we've got these things, we can help, like, pad it out, give you all the atmosphere.
Well, we didn't have a huge amount of stock footage. So, like, I guess, you know, a lot of businesses don't tend to have huge amounts of, like, B-roll or stock footage of their own company. So it's only when you come to make something like this that you think, well, actually what we need is a whole load of other footage here that would just, you know, you don't want to see just Santa wandering around for 3 minutes, just looking at stuff. And you need some of those more close-up shots or just different things that it actually takes a bit of time to build that up in terms of, you know, we've got something we can pull on.
Bank that is able to slot into stuff to pad out.
Because oftentimes it's like you're thinking, aren't you? Think, oh, what would be great is if we could have something that looked like this or look like this. And then it's like, well, we haven't got that. So we've either got to go and film it or we've got to, you know, but actually over time, I think now we're at a point with GW where we've got loads of footage that we can use that we can just be like, right, okay, we want to do this thing. Let's pull that in or, you know, bring this other bit in.
And it's not even to say that at a point you'll reach so much B-roll that you'll never want any more, because we, even now, like when we're talking about videos for GW, we're like, oh, actually we need this kind of a B-roll shot to throw in there. So it is something that you need to constantly work on, really.
Yeah, so it's evolving, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're planning now to go in once a quarter with all of our clients just to film stuff, so that we just have that bank, that storage, so that we're able to then piece stuff together really quickly to get it out there.
So you're getting a good bit of like beard curl coverage there, isn't it? It's got caught, obviously. It's just looking a little bit more authentic. I think they were trying to get the kind of like environmental credentials over here just by like kind of good nod. Look at that. Method acting.
There were still lots of important jobs to do. Hipping and coating and heat treatments too.
Safety glasses on, see? Santa's got his safety glasses on. Well, not in there. Don't need it in that room. You don't need it in that room. Just
So it was machined in a shop of great prominence. GW.
And there was actually a whole load of footage that we didn't use.
yeah.
That's something quite important that people don't realize, is that there's generally like a 1 in 10 rule of you'll get 10 minutes worth of footage and you won't even be able to use 1 minute of it.
Yeah, so I think like this video is 2 minutes long or something, and
It was almost 8 hours worth of filming.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was
Wow.
there was like you
Yeah.
had like 4 or 5 hours worth of footage to sort through to pick out 4 minutes worth.
But what I would say with this is that we did a lot of planning ahead of time. So we knew exactly what shot we needed to get for each bit of the story. Almost broken down to like 5 seconds. Well, every shot, wasn't it, really? So this is a 2-second shot, this is a 5-second shot, this is a whatever. And so we actually knew when we went in there exactly what we needed to get, tick, 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 got all of the shots that we need, so that, because we knew we were on such a tight deadline to try and get it edited and post-production and everything else. So it was kind of, like having the stock helped, obviously. There you go.
And that was one thing to say about. So the stock footage we got was like, it was HD and it was at 24 frames a second, and then all of this footage we got was 4K at 60 frames a second. So you're like trying to intersplice footage that is. So there's that one machining shot that was just went past that looked really janky, but you just sort of hope you do a little bit of smoothing, little bit of warping, stabilization. Yeah. You just sort of hope that it passes.
Just hoping, yeah. So it's sort of got the job done. That's what it's about. So it was such a fun project. Actually, it was really like, it was actually quite a nice. I guess at the time it was like the first Christmas after lockdown, wasn't it? And
yes.
So there was just that little bit more anticipation around Christmas. You could actually see people at Christmas. Everyone was just like, "This is great," and I think it really like helped capture the moment. Like,
what was the reaction like internally in GW?
Massive. Like internally, it went down really, really well. Externally, we had phenomenal response from both like engagement on LinkedIn, engagement on their other social platforms, but also the actual responses they got back from their clients. So, I mean, I won't mention names because it's all confidential, but some really serious players in motorsport, household brands, luxury brand, automotive, like senior people in those companies coming back saying to, the Grangers, like, "Oh, this is amazing. Really, really like appreciated it. Really clever." Like, I think people appreciated the fact that, the buyer persona here, or the customers are largely engineering focused. So having that sort of little technical element into it as well, alongside it being a bit fun and all of those things, just ticked the box of like, right, it's educational, it's entertaining, and it's engaging. So like those, the 3 E's of my 3 E's of Buckles E's. That doesn't sound good, does it?
Don't market that.
Don't market that. Cut that bit. But like, it really resonated. So we've got to come up with something like a little bit more interesting this year.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we've got a few more months to plan this.
You might get booked up to be Santa for everyone this year.
Exactly.
Like,
I could,
if
like,
you need a Santa,
like a side hustle, just like side hustle. Well, my wife's dad, he does Santa. He gets pretty keen on it actually. So he does it. He used to do it like Attingham Park and stuff like that. I think he's in the museum this year.
Oh, you don't be stealing his market then.
He takes it very seriously.
Be an icy Christmas dinner if you've stolen the Christmas market.
Takes it a little too seriously, actually. Sometimes think whether or not there's sort of a blur.
Careful, this is going out in public.
A blurring of the personalities. Oh well, I've expressed my concerns already to him. So it's nothing he doesn't know. So yeah, but all good.
That's pretty good. Well, so that video went down really well, and we're really lucky now because it also built loads of confidence with GW that they now trust us for a lot more video content. So we've got a series coming up that's maybe a bit closer to the line than that should go down really well as well.
Yeah. Yep, and I think we've got some other stuff. Like I think partly it's trying to come up with something that's okay. You got to look at your buyer persona. You got to look at who's going to consume this content. So, a lot of it is probably people in that kind of 30s to 50s maybe range. That's pretty broad demographic. But so we want to try and do some things where we're maybe involving like some films, like classic films, and tying that in. So, without wanting to give
we don't want to spoil big reveal. It's coming soon. You're going to have to stay engaged with this podcast.
And I think what we're trying to do now is like bring maybe in a little bit of CGI into some of the videos. So that taking it to the next level a little bit. So yeah,
Well, I mean, we're doing a lot of work now on that for one of our clients for their new website, and that's another good point, is that actually the integration with so this was a standalone video that we put out to be on social media, but actually there's a real importance on website content now. So what you're talking about with products is that's website heavy, and it's a completely different style of video that you need in order to like grab people's attention.
Yeah, and I guess we found that with our own website. So we've got this, pretty snappy video. Like obviously each shot is probably less than a second, maybe.
I think nothing's over a second. I think we've got half a second for most of it.
There you go. Bit of.
We just this was quite easy for us because we were just throwing in loads of the content that we had sort of created for clients, intersplicing it with some content that we were creating specifically for this, and then a little bit of stock footage in that here and there for shots that we didn't have.
But I think we've had a lot of feedback on this when people come on the website to say, yeah, it definitely grabs attention. It definitely kind of grabs you. It makes you think like, okay, this is a bit different. I suppose from our point of view, our transition from doing predominantly non-exec board support through to more kind of inbound marketing, growth agency style work. Yeah, this was actually quite a bold move for us to do, really, from a much more kind of, I mean, if you look back historically over the evolution of our website, it's gone from being sort of sailing boats and corporate blue kind of colours through to something that was a bit more kind of, what do we have after that? I can't remember. There was another one.
When you first moved to the clean
theme, then there was a mountain kind of outdoors kind of, we lead you up the mountain type of, like, we're on a journey sort of metaphor, to now something like this, which is much more focused on, okay, well, how do we get attention? So that's the first bit. And then, probably actually that would lead into another podcast on the growth generator or something, talking through that actually.
Absolutely,
rather than like get into all that now. So, don't know. It's all good.
Yeah, well, it's video content, like we say. Most important thing now in this modern era for marketing is you need to have a video content strategy for attention. Yeah, whatever it is, whether it's socials or
figure
website.
out what it is that's going to resonate with your audience, and then come up with something that is like witty, interesting, and that's going to engage them. Like what's the, once you've got that attention, it's like, right, okay, now what you can do with it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the...
Yeah, and not everyone needs something that's like the Santa video. Like if your market's on TikTok, then the 3 to 7 second video that you can do on your phone, it will be enough, but it needs to be in there because it is the modern medium.
Yeah, and just make it engaging. So as everyone is doing it, you got to have that click that people want to watch it, want to stay. So whether that is Santa or all the exciting footage you can see on our video, it is just making sure it applies to your audience and what they want to see.
Yeah. And I think it's like, you've just got to do it. You just got to do it, haven't you? So you can overanalyze this stuff and you can sit there and think, well, what would be engaging? And you get paralysis by analysis. And it's not until you actually start throwing some content out there, putting road cones on top of cars and pretending they're sorting hats from Harry Potter.
Going so desperate.
Going viral on TikTok. Follow me at Richbo. You just got to try stuff, and not everything's going to work, but it's, the name of the game is you're not going to win all of them, right? You've got to keep going, experiment, learn, look at the data, see what's working, see what isn't working, pivot, go again.
Yeah, that Santa video would never have happened if we had gone, no, we've got a week or less to do this in. We can't do it. Yeah. We're just like, you know what? We're going to make it happen and just see how it goes.
And and that was total gut instinct in a way. There's no data that's going to support, like, what you need to do is do a Santa video. Like where would you even come up with that? Sometimes it's like, right, actually, just this is the mood, this is the where the market's at, this is what's happening. And we're just going to go for something and kind of gut instinct. This is going to resonate with the audience that we're looking for. So
exactly. No, I think that's well rounded.
Good round to finish. Yep. Awesome. Right.
All right. Well, thank you for that conversation.
That's okay.
It's good analysis there.
Good podcasting, everyone.
Good podcasting. Good podcast. First podcast. Again, you just got to start it. Do
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Go
That's
for
the
it.
whole point.
So awesome. Well, hopefully tune in to the next one.
Yes. Do tune into the next one.
Direct stare.
Direct stare. You will watch the podcast. Cool.
Thanks for listening to the SME Growth Podcast. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from and tell all your business friends. In the next episode, we'll be showing a case study of some work we did with a food retail client where they tried to engage more of their customers online. Bye for now and good luck with your business.